Alrighty, I finally got a new one for you. One of a trio of new ones. So, this is sort of a commie Workers of the World Unite video. They worked me to death over the Super Bowl, practically to death. I worked basically 2 weeks straight. I worked through last weekend. This weekend I got off, and it's a relief actually. After you think that life is bad when you have to work 5 days a week, and then they force you to work through Super Bowl weekend, and you realize how bad life really can be. And this seems like a little better by comparison, but it's still kind of shitty. Anyway, they worked us to death over the Super Bowl. I'm a driver. They told us we wouldn't be getting any gratuity, and they worked us a minimum of pretty much 11 to 14 hours a day. No gratuity for any of the rides. Nobody tipped us either. We didn't get any cash tips from the people, so everyone we took was basically either told that we were getting tipped and decided not to tip us anyway, or just thought we were getting tipped. Wasn't told anything, but it was a whole lot of work, and they told us before the whole thing, well, you're not going to be getting any gratuities. I don't know if that's because they needed to lowball them to get that price. They cut out gratuity for that reason, but said, no, you're not going to be getting gratuities, but if you do a good job, we'll give you a bonus, $300 bonus. And a lot of my coworkers, I mean, I probably had it relatively easy. I mean, they switched my schedule. I'm a night shift worker, and they made me work the early morning shift. I got minimal sleep the whole time. A lot of my coworkers, I actually had the option of getting more sleep, although it was on a schedule I was totally unused to, so my body was totally rejecting it, and I was exhausted the whole time. My coworkers were getting 3 hours of sleep a night for the 4 days of the weekend, from Thursday to Sunday or Monday, I guess 5 days that all the major Super Bowl transportation business was going on. It was really unsafe. My company was being unethical with the drivers, forcing them to work to the point of exhaustion, putting the lives of themselves and their passengers and other innocent bystanders at serious risk. And in the end, they gave a bonus to those people who worked nonstop. I'm supposed to be getting one, I believe, because I did work nonstop through the entire event. And the bonus, which was originally promised to be $300, ended up being $280, and it was paid to us in a Visa check card. They couldn't give us cash. No, they had to give it to us in a Visa check card. So, I mean, this is just, we would have made, if they'd been paying us overtime, they don't pay overtime at my company, and they didn't pay gratuity. If they'd been paying us gratuity and overtime, we would have made well more than $280. But this is how they treat us. They treat us like slaves, basically. We were treated like slaves. Slaves that get a bonus, but with the working conditions, it wasn't worth what we get out of this. I don't even know if I'm going to get my 280. Hopefully they have it for me somewhere. But for all the effort we put in, what we got back was not worth the reward. And they treat us like robots. Like we can switch our schedules around. Like our circadian rhythms don't matter. Like we don't need 8 hours of sleep a night. And expect us to get the job done as if everything was as usual, business as usual, and that's just not right, And this is how companies are these days. There was a time in the past when they gave you pensions, and it was an 8-hour work week, and you had to be paid overtime if you worked overtime, and employees had unions. I mean, some employees still have unions, but now it's getting harder and harder to have unions because they're trying to, my company is trying to prevent the drivers from having a union. And basically, more and more companies are going this way. They want to replace people with computers to do the job for them. They have no interest in forming a relationship between the front office, the big wigs, and the entry level guys, the guys at the lower levels of the company. And they see Even though our job is not as difficult to do, maybe as some other jobs, they don't really value the work we put in. That we're just seen as replaceable cogs. That anyone can do our job, and so our opinion doesn't get asked. We're treated like children. The benefits are being restricted to the minimum that they can give, and still seem like they care even the littlest bit, even though it's clear that they don't care. We're basically just treated like robots, expected to behave like robots, and eventually we'll be replaced by robots because they're developing robots that can drive the cars that we currently drive. And our job will go the way of the elevator operator and all these other jobs, the factory worker that got replaced by machinery or being replaced by computers. They just don't care about us. We are worthless as human beings to them. All we are is someone that performs a function that creates wealth for the people on the top. This is where it gets to be a commie video. Yes, the whole point of business is to get more wealth out of your employees than, or to pay employees less than the wealth that they create. So, and normally, all right, well, that's how capitalism works, and it used to be an okay deal in the past because they would at least make sure that the employees were taken care of. The rents weren't as high. You could afford to support a family doing work that was, not white collar work, blue collar work. There were safeguards. The laws were more protective. There was a time when, and also people weren't pushed as hard. You didn't have to be as productive in the old days. You just had to do a decent job. But they're trying to squeeze as much as they can out of employees. And it's not just in the driving world, just the way they make employees work on Thanksgiving or holidays in the retail sector, or the way they make you take your work home with you now. You have laptops you got to bring home, and you got to be constantly available on your cell phone, and it's just sort of like they're just pushing people more and more and more. And in every sector, it's not even at the lower level, it's at the white collar level too. Everyone, they just want more and more from people, and they want them to spend less and less time with their family. They expect them to get less and less sleep. They expect them to be more and more dedicated to a leadership that doesn't really care about them, is only interested in winning the race, the profit race. A race to make as much money as possible. And for all this reason, because things are moving in a direction of less care about the peons, the guys at the bottom of the economic ladder that make a lot of this stuff happen, despite being replaceable, they are putting in an honest day's work. So because of this push to treat them more poorly, to give them as little as possible while making as much money off of them as possible, to squeeze them as much productivity out of them as they can without incentive, and to replace them eventually with automation. Because of all that trend in that direction, I'm saying, screw these people. If you can, here's what I'm telling you to do. Do a crappy job. You don't want to piss people off. You still want people to use your services. But realize that when you do a good job for a company and make them money, all you're doing is increasing the disastrous direction. You're encouraging them to treat you more and more like a replaceable cog. Maybe if you did a really great job, ideally, in the past, you would be promoted. They'd say, oh, he's doing all this great work. But now they don't do that anymore. There is no more promotion from within, or the promotion that is from within, you have to kind of go to them yourselves. They don't recognize a good job and say this. You have to fight for everything you get. You go to them and say, well, I've done a good job, so I think I should be promoted. And which is, I don't think that's the way people should be promoted. I think people should be promoted based on merit. You should be getting regular raises. Regular raises are gone too. I'm not getting regular raises. Most people aren't. It used to be you could expect a regular raise if you did a good job, but But those kind of things are gone. The raises they give you are paltry sums that don't amount to a jack shit. So, the only way to move up in the world is to basically be everyone's doing the best job they can, but I don't know. It seems like you have to be a obnoxious asshole to move up the ranks. You got to constantly be saying, "Well, I deserve this and I deserve that," and whether or not you actually deserve it doesn't really matter. That people don't even know how good of a job you're doing. They're not even paying attention. They have needs they need to fill. And there was a time when there was the promotions were merit based, and putting in going the extra mile would make a difference. But now, if you go the extra mile, they just ask you to go even if they do promote you, they ask you to go the extra mile on the next level up, and you're still not being compensated properly. And going the extra mile when you've been, promoted to manager means you put even more hours, and you see even less of your family. You get even less free time. There's the incentive to working harder is essentially to increase the profit machine for your company and to continue to burn resources. And that's the other side of this thing. It's not just that they care less and less about the employees, but they care less and less about the outcome of their business. As I've said in a previous video, most business is just turning resources into profit and waste. That's what happens in businesses. In my business, the profit and waste comes from gasoline. We got to buy gasoline and move people from place to place. And I'm not trying to say people shouldn't be going from place to place, but, not the way it's being done today. It'd be different if we were, the drivers of horse-drawn carriages. That would be a little more respectable. But, we're just burning gasoline, and we're moving around rich people. Rich people are going on TV and making all this propaganda, saying you have to watch sports because sports is important, even though it's not important whatsoever. It's a great big distraction from what's going on in the world, so that people, will continue to work their crappy little lives as slaves to wealthy people and not question it because they're given entertainment that distracts them from the fact that they're working for these people that are basically forcing them to create profit by burning as many resources as possible. In the end, all business is just basically a burning of resources, creation of waste and profit. So, given that that's what business really is, it's just it's sort of it's hidden in a lot of different ways. But the reality of business is it's about raping the land and providing a lavish lifestyle for the executives who run the company. And the executives who run the company, they get to live in lavish mansions, and they can travel whenever they want, and they're ensuring that their children have a comfortable lifestyle without necessarily having to work, and ensuring that they get the best education, that their children become the new masters of the universe. And they don't really care that they have to burn resources in order to prop their genetic legacy up. They're just wanting to ensure that their genes win. They're animals. They're the alpha males of the human kingdom. Alpha males and females. And they want to ensure that they have their slaves working their asses off so that their genetic legacy can succeed into the future without any good reason. So, in the end, we're all just working for them. We're doing what they want. We're not rocking the boat because we know that if we do, it's dangerous, lead to revolution, we could die. But there are ways to revolt, and that's what this video is about. And this is what I say to you, people. Do the crappiest job you can do and still get away with it. This whole time I was working over the Super Bowl, I'm saying, I don't really care if I do a good job. I don't care if the people like me. I know I'm not going to get tipped. None of these people were tipping. No matter how good a job. I did perfect rides over the weekend. Not intentionally, just they worked out perfectly in the end, and I didn't get tipped for it. I always try to do a good job just to make, for the sake of making the person I'm working with life more pleasant. But, The reality is I could give less of a crap about how the company looks. This company asked me to embarrass myself regularly because of their shortcomings, and they asked the drivers to take on the public face of the shortcomings of the company, of which there are many in my situation. So again, they don't care, and because they don't care, you shouldn't care. You shouldn't care about how the company looks. You shouldn't care about getting the work done that the company needs to get done. You should only care about one thing. You do the job to the minimum level required to keep you from getting fired. And in any opportunity that you get the chance, you should do a crappy job, really. Because, the better job you do, the more these companies take it for granted that they can abuse you. Especially if you're getting abused by your company. Especially if your company is treating you like a slave or like a robot or like garbage and doesn't care about your opinion and sees you as being replaceable. Why should you care about the well-being of your company? Why should you care about the well-being of the executives who are, have control over your life, that tell you when to be there, when to leave, and tell you that you're not going to be making an extra cent for a lot of extra work put in? Why bother? You do the minimum necessary, and you be proud when you do the minimum necessary and manage not to lose your job. That is what I recommend to you. As long as the people who run the company don't care about you, you shouldn't care about them. And to care about company, I work with a lot of people. Usually when you're new to a company, you care a lot more because you're trying to make a good impression. But if you're going to do that, only make a good impression so that you can get away with doing less in the long run. Because making a good impression, it's only going to matter in certain white-collar jobs where you actually have an opportunity to make an impression that will get you promoted. And even in those situations, generally, unless you have a shot to be promoted into the upper echelon, the upper management that makes most of the big decisions, you're just wasting your time. When you work for a company, just do a crap job, especially if you have no chance of being promoted or if you are less than enthusiastic about the prospects of enjoying your life when you are promoted. Just do whatever you need to do to get by. Be proud that you're not going the extra mile, and take any chance you can to use the company's resources to your own benefit. If you can steal things from the company, if you can find ways to make money from the company that, just cipher money that should be going to the company to you, embezzlement. You can find ways, loopholes, find ways to make social contacts that benefit you and not the company. Anything you can do to take advantage, do it, because they don't care about you. They sure as hell don't care about you. So why should you care about them? And this doesn't apply, obviously, if you like your company, if you feel like you're well treated by your company, if you feel like they don't make, poor, unrealistic demands of you, if you feel like you're adequately compensated, they give you incentives for good work. In that case, I would say, fine, just disregard this video. Because at least those companies are showing some level of appreciation. But for those of us, most of us who work in entry-level jobs, and who are replaceable cogs, don't care. Please don't care. I walked into a Home Depot once where I got no help, and I remember being all in a huff about it and pissed. But you know what? In the end, I was probably just trying to buy something that's going to screw the environment anyway. So good for you, Home Depot guys, who didn't help me out and walked around and did whatever you did. That's the right kind of spirit. Screw the owners of Home Depot. Those people can go to hell. They don't care about the world. They don't care about their employees. And so their employees shouldn't care about them. Until they're forced to, obviously. And when they're forced to, they can always find other loopholes around working hard. But be proud of being a slacker. Be proud of doing a bad job. You're keeping the world from accelerating into resource depletion and death. And that, to me, is a better thing than going with it gung-ho and letting them treat you like the piece of crap that they think of you.